It's time to pet your familiar, tie up your hair, and get ready to cook, because today we are making the Horker stew from the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. To begin, let's discuss the meat of the stew. Sorry to say, but Horker is not something found in our universe. The closest thing would probably be walrus, which is just too difficult to source to reasonably make. However, we do have fatty animals that we farmed called pigs, so my apologies pigs, but you are going into a stew today. I was able to secure this pork sirloin for a reduced price at my local store, but I would recommend using 2.5 pounds of pork shoulder for this. I'm making this for D&D later, so I'm using a bit more meat as well. We need to cut these into cubes, and I'm making these rather large on average because we will be browning them before putting them into the stew. I also am taking out the bone here, but we'll be adding it into the stew for a little bit of extra heartiness later. We need to get some flour prepped for this, so to a plate we'll need to add half a cup of flour and salt and pepper it and set it aside. Then we need to lightly coat the pieces to it and set all that aside while we work on our vegetables. This is a great time to subscribe if you haven't already. Now we need to chop up our onions, celery, carrots, potatoes, and parsnips into manageable sized pieces. For the onion, cut off the top, leaving the root end, cut it in half through the root end, and then make a few horizontal cuts through the onion before making your vertical cuts, and then your perpendicular final cuts. Set that aside and we can work on our carrots, which we want about 2 cups of. For carrots, peel and cut them in half several times until you've made them into sizes you want in your final soup. We're going to do the same for our 1 parsnip. Now let's work on the celery, of which we need about 1 cup. For the 2 russet potatoes, I would recommend having a bowl with cold water set to the side so that your final potatoes can sit in there while the stew is prepping so that they don't brown too much. We're also going to very lazily cut up 4 slices of bacon with our scissors and set those aside in a separate bowl. Let's also set aside our spices, which will be 2 bay leaves, a half teaspoon of dried rosemary, and 1 teaspoon of dried thyme. Onto the stew prep. To begin, heat up a few tablespoons of vegetable oil in whatever pot we'll be using for our final stew, and we're going to brown our pork pieces in there. You'll notice some brown pieces forming at the bottom of the pot, but don't worry about those, we have plans for them later. Set those pieces aside, and then let's brown bacon. They can go into the same bowl as the pork for now. Now that we have this lovely fond and fat on the bottom, we can just go ahead and put in our onions, and we just need to get those translucent. Now we can add in our other vegetables, as well as 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, and now we can deglaze the bottom of the pot and add in that flavor to our stew with a half cup of white wine. Now we can add in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, our meat, and 4 cups or 1 quart of beef broth. Now we need to bring this up to a boil before reducing the heat and bringing it back to a simmer. And once we get it back to a simmer, we can add a lid before letting it simmer for 1 hour and 30 minutes. If you want the potatoes and the parsnips to be a little more firm, you can instead add them in at the 45-minute mark. After all that time and all those smells, it's time to pour yourself a bowl. Now, I really enjoyed the final product here. The meat was very tender, it was very hearty, and I felt full and ready to adventure, or take an arrow in the knee afterwards, and I will definitely be adding this to my fall and winter soup rotation. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more. See you next time.